All right, guys, welcome back to the Dropout 704 podcast. Today we're doing something a little different. We're having some faith-based conversations with the homies. To the left of me, we got my co-host for the day, Brianna LeBron. And then to the left of her, I'll let you introduce
I am Thomas McMillian.
Whoa.
McMillian.
Big last names. What's up, y'all? I'm Katie Forbadusi.
Katie Forbadusi.
Yes, big last name.
Hardest things about being Christian, I think that today's service kind of made me think about that a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first points that I had here was, or are there any points that you guys had that I didn't put in there? Or something you want to say about that? Or do you think that it's something that is hard at times?
Yeah, I definitely think it's hard. I mean, I feel like it kind of is included in some of the things that you had already put, but I think just the idea of like current culture and kind of where we fit in or maybe sometimes don't fit in. I feel like for me, the hardest thing is sometimes those moments of like, oh, I would love to just do what sometimes other people are doing. It just looks so, they must be having so fun, or they just like, it must be so cool to not care about like deep things. I don't know. But then I think that's where I get pulled back and I'm like, there's so many amazing things about being a Christian. It is so freeing in its own way that's, I think, often the wrong mentality to have. But definitely nonetheless, the culture aspect of it is hard.
Yeah.
I think you can have fun still and like be a Christian. I think you just gotta like have fun in like good ways. Like and some things aren't even that fun. Like honestly, that other people are doing. Like sometimes like you think that it's fun and then like you see it and you're like, oh, well, that's not really that fun. Like for example, like if you're just single and sleeping around, like it may look fun, but at the same time, like that person is just like dealing with something that like they haven't figured out, and like they're just like, I don't know, like using sex as a coping mechanism or for something, or you never know. So like it's like it may look fun, but like at the end of the day, is it really fun? Like
Yeah, I do have something to add on that. For me personally, that's what it used to be like, and it was honestly just like a void to fill my ego, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I realized that there's really no fulfillment in that. Mm-hmm. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that I thought about was just the overthinking temptation is sin, right? Like they're like kind of like what you said, like some things don't have to be that deep, but I guess like when you're of the faith or of faith in general, like small things just kind of seem like a bigger deal to you, and depending on who you're around, sometimes it's just like you kind of I feel like outcasted a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like if people are doing certain things and you're just like, I don't want to do that. I feel like sometimes for me it's like maybe like going out places or doing certain things that I'm just like, I really don't need to be doing that. But then it's like, what's wrong, bro? You scared? It's like, of God? Yeah, a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, it's the wrong mentality to have of like, oh, people that aren't Christians have more fun. Because I think, just like you said, I mean, some of my friends that aren't Christians and some of the circles I've been in where I have been like, you go out and you have fun, whatever. And I like would wake up the next day being like, what was the point of that? Like none of this was actually that fun. And it's like, you don't feel like you have a purpose.
I agree with that. I think that, maybe it's also just because we're all like young adults. It could just be a lot of the things that like seem to be fun or that are perceived as fun is usually like kind of degenerate, you know what I'm saying? Like partying or, going out or getting high and getting fly and getting by, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I guess that's interesting. What are the things that you think, what do you guys consider to be fun?
Hiking.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, actually I love being outdoors. I love like going on the lake, like being on a boat. Water skiing or tubing or whatever. I love music. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. We're very similar in that way. I I love, honestly, just like simple things. I love hanging out with my family, chill stuff. And I think too, like, I will still go out like to a bar. Like, I feel like that's something that's funny is like, I think misconceptions. People are like, oh, if I'm a Christian, I can't ever like do this and that. And like, obviously, there are limitations. There are things that maybe, yeah, sure, we're told not to do. But we do it out of obedience because we love God and we know that it's for the best for us. But still, like, yeah, I'll go to a brewery, have a beer. I'll like go out at 10 p.m. and have a drink with my friends. Like, that's just not negating anything. So I think there's definitely a balance.
Yeah. We have like to do that too.
Yeah, and what you said about doing like more simple things, I realized that the most fun things are really just the things that keep you present in the moment.
Yes.
So it can be really anything. For me, yesterday I was just sitting outside, listening to the birds, looking at the trees, and it just brought me a lot of like
That was so
joy,
poetic.
you know.
That was poetic.
Yeah. I feel like the best moments are like when you're in a moment and you're like, dang, it sucks that like eventually I'm going to be like, dang, this is the past. But like this moment is so good right now. I wish I can like be in it for longer, but it's about to end soon. Like,
Yeah.
So true.
but yeah.
I get so
Even, like,
nostalgic these days.
Yeah. And I actually made a video yesterday speaking a little bit on that. Is like, in order to be more present, to accept that it's not going to be there, but don't let trying to hold on to that stop you from experiencing the beauty that is going to keep on coming. You know what I mean? The different types of beauty, the different types of moments that bring you joy.
For sure.
I think the beauty in some of those moments is that they are finite. Because if certain things were just like always good, you would never know or appreciate how good they are because you wouldn't have had other things to compare to, kind of a thing. So I feel like the beautiful moments I look back on, I look back on them with such fondness because it's like they're gone and they're set, and like there is some sadness in certain moments not being back, but there's also a lot of beauty in that too, I think.
Maybe that's why we gotta struggle a little bit on earth so we can appreciate heaven a little bit more.
Yeah, I think sometimes, honestly, I feel like kind of like what you were saying, like it is okay to still go to a brewery, and I still do enjoy hiking and stuff. I guess it's kind of the pressure, right? Because of like sometimes I feel like people will use my actions to kind of like discredit Christianity or something, or like because I'm not perfect be like, oh well, it's okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like for some people it might be cool to like have a beer or two, but for other people maybe not, and just because I do it doesn't mean that like that's the way to do it. So I guess that's something that I kind of like struggle with, and honestly initially made me a little reluctant to even like do this kind of podcast, because I worried that people would be like, how are you gonna talk about God and do all this and that? But then I started thinking like, well, I guess it's worse to just like talk about other things and then not talk about God. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. One of my favorite like sayings that I've always said to people that aren't Christians or people that have like thoughts like that is like, Christianity isn't made, like you don't only have to be perfect to be a Christian. Christianity is for the imperfect, like inherently. Like we're not saying that, oh, we're so perfect over here, we're so much better, like you got to be better then you can come like this. Like, no, that's quite literally like the gospel message that I came because you're all so imperfect and I came to save you. So to exactly your point, like if people think they have to be a certain way to be a Christian, you don't, because it's not one way. It's not one type of person to be. It's everyone. And we're all messed up in our own ways.
For sure. I feel like that was like one thing that like kind of kept me out of the church for a long time too, is that like I didn't get it, I guess. Like, you know, how are all these people going to church, but they're such hypocrites and they always are judgmental and doing this and that. But then like going back to church, I was like, oh, like even like reading the Bible, like these people, nobody has really like changed. Like humanity is still the same. Like there's still all these bad things that were there in the Bible in biblical times. And like people are just people, and like, you know, we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to do things that we shouldn't be doing. But like the point of having a relationship with Jesus is that like, that's okay. You know, as long as you're like trying to do better and you're like trusting in God, you know?
Yeah, completely. And I feel like there's a fine line between like just what we were hearing in service this morning. Like if you're pretending, if you're going out and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian or I love God," and then like you're just completely defying that like on purpose, then that's where like the problems lie. But I think like what all of us agree on is like I fully believe what I practice and I'm trying my best every day, but like inherently like I'm gonna mess up because we're not perfect. And so I think there is like that fine distinction to make sometimes, but overall, like, I totally agree.
Yeah. I think you gotta try at least. Like, you can't just say, yeah, I believe in it, but like you're not doing anything to actually show that, I guess. Like, you gotta put in some work.
So the things that we've like talked about today, right? So far, what are like some things that we could give people to like help them if they're also like struggling with that? Like for example, if you deal with feeling misunderstood, what are options that you have to I guess help negate those feelings?
You repeat the question?
You see how we're saying like sometimes like as a Christian, you might feel misunderstood if you're like not doing something that like the crowd is doing, you know what I'm saying? So for someone who's listening to that, who is like feeling that same thing, what are like things you can leave them with or advice to help them through that?
Well, I don't think we're supposed to follow the crowd. I think like he specifically says like there's gonna be a path where the majority are going. Like if you're walking with me, you're not walking down that path. And like you have to like kind of be okay with that. Like, Jesus' disciples, he was like, follow me, leave everything that you have behind and come and follow me. And that's what they did. Like, not that you have to like leave everyone behind, but like, like you're not going to be going down the same path as everybody else. And like, you shouldn't want to, like, if you believe that, like, if you believe in what Jesus has been teaching, like, you shouldn't want to follow that path. Like
100%. Like there's a natural like rub that you feel when you're a Christian with people who aren't Christians, or when you see things that aren't like from a biblical perspective or whatever, because yeah, you're right. We're not supposed to be like everyone else because we're set apart and all those kinds of things. I feel like in terms of advice, I would just say, honestly, like if you've never been to church, if you've never opened a Bible, just try. Like, I think it seems like there's a lot of barriers to entry in a way of like, oh, I don't know what this passage is going to mean, or I don't want to walk into a church service and like hear a pastor speak about something I'm uncomfortable with. Like, that's totally valid, but I would say just try and sort of be willing to be open to the experience. And if you know someone who's a Christian, reach out to them and see if they have any specific advice for you, if they know you better, know your situation better, because I don't think there's a blanket advice that anyone could give. And I don't know, if we wanted to like get really specific, if you've never opened a Bible, I would suggest starting with John. It's a really good gospel. It's a really good place to start, but that's just me.
And ask questions.
Yeah.
If you're curious.
Yeah, because questions are okay. That's like welcome. Doubt is okay. That's like something that people don't like talking about, but it's valid.
That's one thing I kind of liked about going to our church, is that it like speaks to people who I guess are sometimes doubting or like struggling or like don't know where they are in their relationship with God yet. And like that kind of helped me like figure out where I was in my relationship with God.
Yeah, I think doubt can be healthy in the same way of like, I feel like you can't really have faith without doubt, in the same way you can't be brave if you're not afraid of anything, So you kind of need that bar. I wish I had the bombs. Episode 3 will have them, promise.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think that's something that growing up I would realize that like I had a lot of questions, but sometimes I felt like my questions were like going over the heads of like some of the people I was asking. And I feel like even for me personally, that kind of like pushed me away from the faith of like, these guys don't even know the answers, blah, blah, blah. And then, like you said, you kind of start picking up a Bible and reading it for yourself, and you're kind of like, wow, these answers are really like right in front of you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was a big thing. I think reading for myself, because one thing I feel like growing up, I knew like all the Bible stories, just like from Sunday school and stuff like that. But then you kind of start reading Genesis and kind of all those stories are in the beginning. But I digress. But wait, yeah, Genesis. Like you realize like okay, this is just like the beginning of it, and like it's so much deeper than what we know.
Oh yeah, I know. I haven't even read the whole Bible yet, and there's still so much more to dive into.
Yeah, we started reading it from the beginning, and then we
In the
moved.
beginning.
Literally, and then we moved over to the Gospels. Well, I appreciate you guys for like giving more perspective on this. You know, hopefully people have something to go. We left someone thinking about something, or maybe we answered a question that someone's questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Heck
For
yeah.
sure. Maybe we'll see.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll
We
definitely
will
see
be
you guys
back,
again.
guys. This is not the last. This is the first though. In the beginning. Peace out, guys.